Over the years I've been to lots of different places here in the UK, and more often than not, I always say to myself, oh, this is a really nice place, I must come back one day, and more often than not I never do. And that's purely because I just don't seem to get the time, because I'm discovering new places, so I never really get the time to revisit older places. However, I've made a real effort today to revisit a place I first came to 40 years ago. This is the beautiful Whitby. Whitby, the name of which comes from white settlement in Old Norse, is set in a deep valley at the mouth of the River Esk, and is one of the most picturesque ports in England. Dominated by the cliff-top ruined abbey, the narrow alleys and quaint streets climb down to the busy quayside, with its harbourside houses and small shops filled with crafts, knickknacks and antiques. A bustling and colourful working port, Whitby offers fishing trips by boat or from the pier. Whitby's most famous inhabitant, Captain James Cook, sailed from the port to change the history of the world. The Captain Cook Memorial Museum, his former home in Great Plain, is furnished in the style of his times, when Whitby was the 7th largest port in England. As famous locally are the whaling masters of the Scoresby family and pioneer photographer Frank Meadows Sutcliffe. The Whitby Festival is held around mid-June, its regatta in mid-August, and a week-long Captain Cook Festival in October, which reflects the seafaring traditions. On the west cliff is a statue of Captain Cook and a whalebone arch commemorating the whaling industry. It is the second such arch. The original is preserved in Whitby Archives Heritage Centre. The harbour is sheltered by the Grade II listed East and West piers, each with a lighthouse and beacon. The West Lighthouse of 1831 is the taller at 84 feet, and the East Lighthouse, built in 1855, is 54 feet high. On the West Pier extension is a foghorn that sounds a blast every 30 seconds during fog. It's nice to spend a day in Whitby today. And also Whitby is actually where I'm staying this week, whilst I'm exploring the area and part of the North York moors. Now the first time I came to Whitby was when I was 9 years old and I went caravanning to Scarborough with my family. We did have a day in Whitby at the time, but I must admit I don't remember anything about Whitby from that visit. However, I returned again about 12 years ago. I came with a group of friends and we had a few days here and I thought it was lovely here. So that's why I've come back today to spend a bit more time here again. From the West Pier, I headed towards the town centre as I walked along Pier Road, passing some of Whitby's famous fish and chip cafés. The last few days I've been here, people have been queuing up the steps to get inside Magpie Cafe. But having been in myself, I can quite understand why. It's very good. I came to the swing bridge, which spans the River Esk, divides the upper and lower harbours, and joins the east and west sides of the town. Whitby developed as an important bridging point of the Esk, and in 1351 permission was granted for tolls to be taken on the bridge for its maintenance. In 1609 a survey for a new bridge was commissioned, while in 1628 it was described as a drawbridge, where men raised planks to let vessels pass, and tolls were collected. The bridge posts were rebuilt in stone at a cost of £3,000 in 1766. This structure was replaced by a four-arched bridge between 1833 and 1835, one arch made of cast iron, swivelled to allow vessels to pass. This bridge was replaced between 1908 and 1909 by the current electric swing bridge. Crossing to the east side of Whitby, I wandered through the narrow streets of Sandsgate, Church Street and the Market Square. It's certainly busy here today. Anybody would think that Whitby was a nice place. Well, I dined at the Abbey Wharf last night, and I have to say I had the best scampi ever. It was delicious. At the end of Church Street, I began to climb church steps, a flight of 199 steps leading up the hill to the church on the east cliff. And no, I haven't been counting them on the way up. Overlooking the town is the Church of St Mary, an Anglican parish church founded around 1110, although its interior dates mainly from the late 18th century. The church was designated a Grade 1 listed building in 1954. Behind the church is the spectacular Whitby Abbey. Generations have been drawn to these well-known ruins, for which this famous and worldwide known abbey is a site of literary inspiration, religious devotion and pilgrimage. It is also known to be one of the most atmospheric visitor attractions along the Yorkshire coastline. In 1890, Bram Stoker became totally inspired by the abbey's Gothic splendour, and it helped him create his world-famous novel Dracula. After lunch, I travelled 5 miles south of Whitby to Robin Hood's Bay, a small fishing village and bay located just inside the North York Moors National Park. An English ballad and legend tell a story of Robin Hood encountering French pirates who came to loot the fishermen's boats and the northeast coast. The pirates surrendered, and Robin Hood returned the loot to the poor people in the village that is now called Robin Hood's Bay. The village, which consists of a maze of tiny streets, has a tradition of smuggling, and there is believed to be a network of subterranean passageways linking the houses. During the late 18th century, smuggling was common on the Yorkshire coast. Vessels from the continent brought contraband, which was distributed by contacts on land, and the operations were financed by syndicates, who made profits without the risks taken by the seamen and the villagers. Tea, gin, rum, brandy and tobacco were among the contraband smuggled into Yorkshire from the Netherlands and France to avoid the duty. I came to Robin Hood's Bay a couple of years ago on another stag weekend, and what a fantastic place to come for a stag do. It was March 2013, and there were 4 of us that came here. It was very windy, but it was also very wet that weekend, but it didn't stop us enjoying the stag weekend. What a really lovely place to come for a do like that. Robin Hood's Bay is built in a crack between 2 steep cliffs. The village houses were built mostly of sandstone with red tiled roofs. The main street is New Road, which descends from the cliff top with the manor house, the newer houses and the Church of St Stephen's stand. It passes through the village, crossing the King's Beck, and reaches the beach by a cobbled slipway known as Wayfoot, where the beck discharges onto the beach. That evening back in Whitby, I had some dinner and then took one more pleasant stroll around the town. Well, it's been a lovely evening here in Whitby tonight. I've had scampi again. That's 2 nights in a row I've had scampi, but it's just been so nice. The scampi I had last night at Abbey Wharf was that delicious I had to have more tonight. But I went to the Quayside Cafe tonight and had scampi, and that was just as nice. It really was delicious. The Quayside was voted the best fish and chips of 2014 for the UK, so pretty impressive. So there are a lot of really good fish and chip shops here in Whitby. So now, what am I going to do now? Well, there might be a few pubs in Whitby, so I might have to finish the evening off going for a few drinks in a pub. It's a hard life, really, isn't it?